and welcome to Doing Disasters Differently, the podcast with Renae Hanvin, which is all about inspiring you to start thinking and doing disasters a little bit differently too. In this episode, I'm talking with Dave Owens, and we are talking about leading in uncertainty, why risk leadership needs to change. So, a little bit about Dave. After leaving the police force after 30 years, Dave established a consulting business that specialises in a number of areas. He's been a consultant to the New South Wales and ACT governments on investigations, policy development, and emergency management in the areas of mining and transport. In 2015, David was appointed by the State Emergency Management Committee as the facilitator for the Greater Sydney Mass Care Exercise. And in June 2016, acted as the New South Wales State Recovery Coordinator for the East Coast Low, and then in September 2016 as the Regional Recovery Coordinator for the Central Western Floods. Gosh, he's been busy. In 2017, David was appointed by the New South Wales Government to the New South Wales Energy Security Task Force. Now, the State Emergency Management Committee exercised Lumen Tenebris in 2018 was the largest public-private partnership exercise conducted in New South Wales. And in 2018, he did the facilitation of the New South Wales Health Influenza Pandemic Exercise and ANSTO, I think that's ANSTO, Health Supply Workshops. In 2019, he did the ANSTO Executive Mentoring and the State Emergency Management Committee Catastrophic Flood Exercise, which was 4 months of planning and facilitation. Now, I'd like to talk about where we met, and I haven't met Dave. I'm going to be honest. I literally reached out to him through LinkedIn because I was asking a few people about who would be good to chat with, and he responded and said yes. So we're actually meeting online and kind of virtually in person for the first time. So I look forward to sharing you the story soon. So now I am here with Dave Owens, who's, as I mentioned before, people kept telling me you've got to get him on for a chat. So Dave Owens, who are you?
I'm an experienced or very old in the industry, emergency manager. Look, I've had 35 years in the cops, and then I started my own company, Risky Business. And I love doing what I do, which is help or train managers to take that next step into strategic leadership. And that's sounds really simple, but it's not simply by progressing by rank. You bring on those traits. And in the changing environment that we're seeing, I think there's a real gap at the moment with that process.
A huge gap. And as we know, we're obviously experiencing, more frequent, more impactful, compounding, all types of disasters and disruptions, which, reading before your experience, you've obviously got the, natural and the other side of the fence. But I think that that movement from tactical response and, process planning to that strategic leadership is so important. And it's a different skill, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And that's why I started by saying, look, um, we train managers, not leaders, because
Yeah.
what we end up doing is the systems that everybody has to be compliant with a system. So it's compliance, it's control, it's
Mm.
predictability,
Yep.
and it's optimization. Now, in a disaster or crisis, what you want is you want judgment, you want courage, you want realisation, and you want moral clarity as well. And you want
Yep.
them to be, um, you want them to escalate matters quickly. You want to make sure that there's really clear authority. Now
Yep.
that's not rank based. That's real clear
Mhm.
authority in a team leader. This is what we're doing. You want them to take responsibility for their actions. And you
Yeah.
also need really, really good communication skills under
Mhm.
pressure.
Oh, absolutely. And I was previously on the EMPA board. I've got a background in communications and stakeholder engagement. And oh my, that is absolutely critical. In fact, quite a few corporate and industry things that I've been doing, I'm trying to get them a seat at the table, like in that real top, 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 top. They should be right there, in fact, before the start. Now, I'm going to go into my first question with you. So you've clearly done lots of investigations, as I said, across the board. So, what do the investigations consistently show about why systems are failing under stress?
Look, they show They show that the warning signs were already there, the systems were in place, yet failure still happened. So you've got to look at, we don't lack the frameworks. The frameworks are there.
Yeah, we've
We
got a lot of
don't,
those.
yeah, we don't lack
Yep.
the plans. Everybody has a
No.
plan. And we don't actually lack investigations, or
Yeah.
inquiries. We keep
No.
doing inquiries time and time again. So
Yep.
what you gotta go back and look at from a different angle, which is you gotta look at leadership works when the systems fail under stress. And that's what
Mhm.
happens is with these inquiries, the systems fail under stress because they're degraded, your system's under pressure. So
Yep.
normally the inquiry will show a pattern of normalisation of risk where
Yep.
the industry, the business, the agency have small failures are routine. They're accepted.
Mhm.
So risk becomes that background noise over
Yep.
there. So
Yep.
that the time the crisis hits, the organisation is already operating in that weakened state. And that's not
Yeah.
good. You've
No.
also still got this, even in smaller businesses, of fragmentation and silos.
Mhm.
Everybody operates agencies with different priorities from each other, so you've got
Yep.
to understand those priorities because the fireys, the ambos, and the cops all have different priorities. You've just got to
Totally.
understand them.
Yep.
Um, Unclear accountability. Now, with a uniform service, it's not too bad,
Mhm.
but still, you've got to nominate. If you're not in uniform, you've actually got to nominate the accountability of who's in charge because
Yeah.
we've moved to this group think in
Yep.
society.
Yep.
And oh, okay, so the populist vote says this, that's the way we're going. Emergency management can't do that. You
No.
know, it's not the
No.
popular vote is the right way. It's knowing all of the information from all of the experts, hearing all of their opinions, the team leader makes their decision. Simple as that. But it's also about I spoke about the interoperability. Different agencies still have different systems, processes, and stress exposes that
Yep.
coordination, when
Totally.
everyone's,
So
under
do you
that
reckon
massive stress.
So do you reckon it's like, and I'm going a little bit off script here, but is it kind of connecting systems to the people? Like, I mean, again, I do a lot of work in the social capital space and totally talking about bonding, bridging, linking ties. So to me, it's like, we've got these processes and systems and, plans, but it's really about connecting, I don't know, the people and the leadership. And is that sort of part of it?
Yeah, look, it is. The people have to have the moral courage, I call it, to actually
Mm.
say on the information that I had at the time, because they never have the full information. If somebody
No.
says, "Oh, I knew exactly what was going on in that," my radar goes up and
Yeah.
goes, "No, you didn't. You
No.
could not have possibly known." So it's teaching them that rely on the plans, but actually have the faith in yourself to say, "Well, we went down track A. That's
Yep.
on the information we knew. That's now incorrect. We have new information. We're going on
Yeah.
track B." People,
Yep.
but people see that as a weakness. Oh, you're admitting that you were wrong. You know what? It's an
No.
absolute strength because otherwise your leadership is rigid. It's you're defending yourself the whole time. Whereas you want leadership to be adaptive because this
Mm.
disaster, this crisis, it will not do what you want it to do.
No, and I guess it
You
needs to
know?
be decisive. Like we need leaders. So if everyone was waiting for all the information or more information or enough information or, information that wasn't going to change, then no one would be leading anything. But when disasters occur, like you know, we need seasoned leaders who take us in a direction and, yeah, things change. So decisions have to change. And I guess we don't always get it right. But for the vast majority, we've got pretty phenomenal leaders in a lot of our governments and emergency management and, different, organizations.
And you'll find that you'll get a team, and this is from other agencies as well, is they wanna come and work with you.
Yeah.
They'll know when you get appointed to a natural disaster, whatever it is, they'll go, "Oh, look, so and so's been appointed. I wanna work with them. I've worked with them in the past." And you'll find the players
Yeah.
start coming together all the time. Why? Because you trust that person. You
100%.
trust them making decisions, and it's really, really important,
It's so
that
important. And, I mean, social capital 101. social capital 101 is the connections, trust, and cooperation between people. And the more you're connected and the higher your levels of trust, then absolutely you're going to work to better, for better decisions and better outcomes.
Oh,
Now, can I ask you about the leadership gaps? One of the questions was sort of, posing was the leadership gap exposed in emergencies, and why do they keep repeating? So, why do we keep having these gaps that we sort of repeat time and time again?
yeah, look, I think I've said you train managers, not leaders. You've got to train leaders, and it's really hard because you want them to understand compliance, control, predictability, and that, but you want them to think outside the square. You've
Yeah.
basically got to give that team leader, whoever's in charge, the incident controller, you've got to give them their head. You've got to have
Mhm.
the faith in them and go, and step back. Now, what a lot of people in authority have a problem in doing, executives and that, is stepping back and letting those
Mhm.
people do their job. It's the
Yeah.
hardest thing. They've got to have really good judgment, the leaders. I've said the courage, improvisation, and I mean good improvisation. I don't just mean you make it up as you go. But, the cycle repeats because inquiries that come don't change the culture. What happens is
Mhm.
you produce the reports,
Yep.
recommend the reforms,
Yeah.
and the deeper issue stays there, which is leadership is treated, it's an individual trait the leader
Yep.
has rather than a system capability. And you said it is, should the systems be built around the leader? Well, built around leadership skills and abilities, I would say
Correct.
definitely. And until leadership becomes embedded, strategic leadership becomes embedded structurally, until it's
Mhm.
in disasters, those disasters will continue to repeat and change and be highlighted, the cracks when these events occur, and
So
it's really hard.
it is hard, and I guess you got changing people and experiences and staffing. So let's be honest, we have a lot of change across the board. And then from my observation now, I've never worked in government, so I don't think I'd last a day there. I don't think anyone in government would want me there. I think I'd drive everyone totally nuts. But I worked with MCOP in Victoria when they came together about 10 years ago. I did all the comms actually around the, we work as one and bringing all the agencies together. And I think that approach is really awesome. But over the past 10, 15 years, like there's a big difference between tactical responders and, you know, leaders of emergencies. Yet a lot of the people coming up go from tactical responders to leaders. But, I mean, going to my next question, how's strategic leadership in risk and emergency management? I guess it needs to evolve from that tactical level as well, so that we are building tactical, incident responders or whatever who have leadership capabilities to then progress in that, as we need them, I guess.
I think it's a bit more than that. I think you've got to link the academic knowledge with the lived experience. You've got to link the 2 of those because if you're an academic, you can't put it into play. The majority, I shouldn't say you can't, but it's about the 20th century assumptions that we've gone on, they don't exist anymore. So,
Mhm.
what was once a stable threat, what was once linear escalation as it went across, or command and control certainty, we don't have that anymore. What we got today is, and you've said it, cascading disasters. You get
Mm.
disaster upon disaster upon disaster, and each one impacts on the one that follows. You've got
Mhm.
climate driven exchange extremes. So
Yep.
you've got this unprecedented each time an event occurs. It's not actually unprecedented. The circumstances just change and it's climate
Mm.
driven. You got
Mhm.
cyber and infrastructure interdependence, and that's had a
Mhm.
massive impact with the social trust breakdown.
Yep.
What I'm seeing versus what I'm being told is completely different because the messaging from your strategic leaders needs to be instantaneous. It needs to get out there, needs to inform the community. Why? Because if they don't get it from you, they'll get it from someone else. It's as
Correct.
simple as that. And misinformation during a crisis. I don't know how many times that's
Oh,
happened. So,
yeah.
we've got to
Everywhere. Well,
change our strategic leadership.
how do we do it? How do we do that? Or what are you doing to drive that change?
We're training, we're doing a uni program. And in the
Right.
university course, the course is actually Masters in Strategic Leadership and Risk and Emergency Management. This is this academia versus industry specialists. And we've actually got lived experience people coming in and talking about leading in ambiguity. You will never get
Mhm.
all of the information. So how do you make good informed decisions?
Yep.
What do the academics say? What's the practicality of being in? Systems thinking, understand the interconnecting failures that will occur. If your system fails, they all will. What are you going to do when power goes down?
Mhm.
You know,
Or
the
the
loss
comms
of
or
power, the comms. I don't think I've carried cash in my wallet for about 4 years. What happens when the power goes down? We lose FPOS. Have people
oh,
thought about that? Because I have. How do you pump petrol? You know, simple
100%.
things like that. I think you've got to really rely on, and this is hard. You touched on it, your corporate churn for your corporate
Mhm.
knowledge and your people. You gotta have trust-based coordination. You gotta form
Yep.
partnerships with people before the battle begins, so that you know that if you call on, whoever it is coming into your team, you already know that your response and your networks will work. They'll hold up under pressure and you don't have to do everything. You can actually sit back and be informed by your team of specialists who are good at what they do. And
Yep.
I'm terrible at this. I always tell them what I want done, and then you're meant to step away in that. And the rule was always keep me occupied because otherwise I go around and I go, "What are you doing? Where are you up to?" What? So it is hard. I'm not saying it's easy. And I guess the last one is adaptive leadership. Your
Mhm.
leadership's got to be flexible. You're not just oversighting people. You're not a manager. I
Mhm.
keep coming to that. I like to refer it, it's a bit daggy, but less of an administrator and more of a strategic navigator into uncertainty. That's what
Love
you
that.
should be. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
you should be as a leader.
Love the idea of that. I don't know if I'd heard of that course actually, but that's also a really great way to attract, I think, people to not from the emergency management sector because it's a translatable kind of skill set. So we could be bringing lots of other people. And what I like about it too is that even if you have other people not from the emergency management sector do that program, that's going to help in their corporate world or in the
Relationship.
industry. Yeah,
100%.
and do you know what? It's so true. In a lot of the training and leadership training that I do, it's around that one of the first things I say is put my number in your phone. We've met now, we're bridging ties because when I ring you, you're now going to take my call. So, Dave, now that you're going to put my number in your phone, now that we've had a chat, when I ring you next time, you'll be like, okay, I know Renee, she's that crazy one with the podcast. I'm going to take a call and chat to her because she might know a little bit about what she's talking about and I might
But
be able to help her.
but that is true because I don't know how many times, even though the company's CEOs haven't engaged us to do the mentoring process, is they under crisis, they ring us up and they go, "Look, I just want to run this past you." And you're sitting there as a sounding board, and probably some of the greatest contributions I've given are, "Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh."
Yeah.
You're just listening to them and you're going, "Uh-huh." And then they go,
Uh-huh.
"Well, what's your advice?" I go, "Keep doing exactly
Yeah,
what
you
you're
could.
doing.
Yeah.
You're spot
Yep.
on." Because
Mhm.
they need that sounding board and they know they can trust in me because otherwise I'll go, "No, no, 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 please
Yeah.
stop, stop, change direction. Is there something I can't see that you're not telling me because that can't be done that way?"
But it can
Or,
be lonely. Like, it's lonely at the top as a leader too.
"Oh."
If you are tasked with like, you need those mentors and those, consultants or those experts to kind of make, if nothing more than just to say, yeah, you know what you're doing, keep going.
And it's also on you that we teach that we start in the coroner's box, in the coroner's court, that there's
Yeah.
been a fatality. Work back and see how well your procedures work. And that's how we exercise. We don't
Mhm.
just sit there and run through a script and say, "Look, this is really good. You're doing really well." We fluster them. We throw in media. We throw in we actually get the CEO to ring and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, listen, you tell me this now. No, I can't. No, you exactly what they would be doing. Politicians
Mhm.
ringing in. If they're
Yep.
silly enough to leave their phones on, we
Yep.
avalanche it because that's what would happen in a real event, and
No,
that's what you got to
100%.
do.
But and again, it's so important, and I love the leadership component of it because again, we have a lot of focus on tactical response, et cetera, but the leadership is absolutely fundamental. Now, I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I always end with, gosh, imagine if we actually met in person. I always finish with asking, what are the two things that you think need to be done differently in the disaster space or sector?
Look, I know we need compliance-based risk. I would never say you can't do that. You need your documents, your checklists, your audits, absolutely. But you need this capability-based leadership. You have to change that. So
Mhm.
actually measure your decision quality, leadership adaptability, your agency trust, and are you a learning culture? That's the biggest
Yeah.
one, is
Yep.
do you do that? Preparedness is leadership under pressure. Building learning systems, not inquiry cycles.
Yep.
What you
Love
gotta
it.
do. So I've got, our learning, systems, and you do after action reviews and all of, but actually implement what you're
Mm.
talking about. Otherwise, we'll do disaster inquiry recommendations, drift for a while, disaster inquiry recommendations. First thing I do when I have an inquiry and I'm there, I go, "Can you get me the previous 4 reports, please?" Because I wanna
Mhm.
see what was done and did they actually enact
Yep.
what the recommendations were.
And
Most
so
of the
much.
time,
Yeah, not well, that's the problem of the repeating. I think too, we like to, I guess, embed being resilient and ready into business as usual or your normal everyday
yes,
culture. So,
yes,
I think
yep,
that's like really critical too. That's probably a big learning opportunity or cultural opportunity for the sector as well.
yeah,
Mm.
very
And
much so.
and do you have one more? Is there one other thing that you'd like to be done differently in the disaster space?
I think the continuing exercising in that uncertainty, having reality come in, and that's really hard. And I don't shy away. It's expensive because you
Mm.
want to simulate the reality. You want to put people under pressure. You don't want them just reading from a script.
Yeah.
I would do, here's my plan. You actually go, well, you haven't got that, or hang on, you're taking on too much of a role. You've now gone off sick. Who's
Mm-hmm.
your replacement? Who steps into your position? And it's
Yep.
amazing how many people say, I had the last one, and after an hour and a half, the gentleman walked into the room and I said, "Oh, you're the single point of failure." And everyone in the room cracked up because they knew what I was talking about. And he goes,
Yeah.
"What do you mean?" I said, "Without you, they all fell in a
Wait.
heap."
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, I said, "You can't have that." He goes, "Oh, but that person over there should have taken my place." I said, "Perhaps you'd like to tell them that."
Yeah.
Would be really, really good. So, I think that
Mm.
exercising in uncertainty is you can't beat it because you
No.
fall back to the level of your training under
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah. Oh, Dave, so nice to connect with you and chat with you. I'm really glad a number of people said all good things about you,
That's
so I should
nice.
get you on for a chat. Really awesome to chat with Dave Owens on leading in uncertainty, why risk leadership needs to change from risky business. Love the name as well. So I really do hope that we get to meet in person one day. And yeah, look forward to crossing paths, Dave. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
I hope today's episode of Doing Disasters Differently, the podcast, has inspired you to think a little bit differently about the role you can play before, during, and after disasters. Given the new era of more frequent and compounding disasters that we are now in, let's work together to build an all hazards disaster resilient future for all. Find out more about the work I'm leading as a social enterprise building disaster resilience at resilientready.org. Don't forget to subscribe to Doing Disasters Differently, the podcast, through your preferred platform. And we'll see you next time when we discover new ways of doing disasters differently together.